Welcome to part 1 of our Fauvism Landscape project. Fauvism is a style of art that was popular in France in the early 20th century, led by famous French painter Henri Matisse. He and a group of other modern artists emphasized painterly qualities and strong, bold use of color over more representational or realistic qualities of realism. Their work is not representational of the world as we see it in real life. Instead, they chose bright, expressive colors and bold strokes of paint to create their work. Let's take a look at some Fauvism landscapes created by other artists. Notice how the water and the bridge and the buildings in the background of this one do not look realistic. They are creative and expressive in their use of color. Same with this landscape. Blue trees, orange mountains are all characteristics of Fauvism. Now let's take a look at some photographs of real landscapes just to get some ideas for the project. Landscapes can show places all over the world and can look different wherever you go. Some show rolling hills and forests with huge red rocky mountains in the background. Others show fields of flowers with a few trees and some smaller mountains in the distance. Some can show the desert with huge rocks for mountains, very flat ground, and vast skies that go on forever. Hopefully these will give you some ideas for what you want your landscape to look like. Okay, so to get started, we need to figure out our foreground, middle ground, and background. If you remember from previous years here in art class, we know that things in the front are called the foreground, things in the middle are called the middle ground, and things that are all the way in the back or in the distance are in the background. So these things in here, the foreground, are going to be closer to the viewer. Then as you get further back, middle ground is going to be a little farther away, and then the background is going to be the farthest away. So keeping that in mind, I also want to remind you that most landscapes have a horizon line where the sky and the ground meet. So I'm going to draw that first, just a straight line, kind of bumpy, because it's supposed to be outside, across near the bottom of my paper. I'm going to use that as a guide to help determine where my middle ground and foreground are going to go. Okay, so here's my horizon line. I'm going to add, I think, a hill here, and I'll erase that line. Okay, so I have a hill here in the foreground now. This is going to be part of the middle ground. I think I'll add a couple more hills here. Middle ground. And now I'm going to add some mountains or some big hills in the background. Let's see. Maybe a big rock or something. And then another one. There we go. Foreground, middle ground, background. After you have it all kind of mapped out, then you can go back in with your pencil and draw some details or extra things in the picture, like trees, flowers, a house, I don't know, sun, clouds, things like that. Okay, after you have a couple details drawn out, then I want you to take your Sharpie marker and outline everything. Then when you're done, erase any pencil lines that you still see left over with your eraser. Remember, draw, trace, erase. All right, that's it for day 1 of our Fauvism Landscapes. We're not going to do anything else until next time you come to art, so I'll meet you back here for day 2.